Welcome to the Australian Business Executive Podcast, where we speak with many of Australia's most influential personalities on issues of business and economic development taking place across the country. You can stay up to date with our magazines, videos and podcasts by visiting www.theabe.tv and clicking on subscribe.
Today's guest is Brett Kelly, CEO of Norco Co-operative. Brett has been CEO of Norco and its subsidiary Norco Foods since 2008, with over 25 years of business management experience across pharmaceuticals, international brand retailing, FMCG and wholesale. Brett brings a skill set of strategic business development to the role. Prior to joining Norco, he had several CEO roles and has used his experience to develop a strong senior management team that works collaboratively to achieve the outcomes set by the board. Brett, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for your time.
8 years is a long time to be at the helm of an organisation. With such tenure, how do you keep a fresh outlook to identify new and emerging commercial opportunities?
All right, look, I think having a unique point of difference and competitive edge in terms of our marketing strategy has really positioned us to pursue a lot of opportunities based on the brand, being that we're a 122-year-old farmer-owned cooperative. That's also created situations with the lift in our profile in recent times. A lot of opportunities are now being presented to us in terms of market opportunities to get involved with the cooperative. The other thing as well, from my point of view, is that it's very satisfying achieving outcomes successfully for a farmer-owned co-op, because the result of that means that profitability is going back into the farming industry.
Well, your corporate experience includes a lot of industries where sales are intrinsic to a company's success. How has that experience affected your role with Norco?
I think the key thing that I've learnt and we've applied in this industry that we're in now, fast-moving consumer goods and the dairy industry, is that you've got to actually lead from the front. It's all about selling first of all and then building in behind it. So, for example, we're around about a $600 million business. A lot of larger companies will set a strategy. They'll then go and spend a fair bit of money up front, shareholder money, with the infrastructure and so forth. And then if the business comes, or it takes too long to come, perhaps, they can get into all sorts of strife, cash flow, profitability, so on and so forth. What we tend to do in Norco is that we set the strategy and we stretch and we lock it in, usually by way of a contract. Then we build in the infrastructure behind it. We have it all ready to go, and we take on the extra resource we need to fulfill that strategy. What it means is that you're taking one small step at a time, but you're leading from the front of the business. So sell it first instead of, I suppose, the traditional way in the dairy industry was to have security of supply first of all. You're better off to have it sold first, have it back to back with a contract. And then that enables you to have that surety of tenure. The other thing is just understanding the whole flow through to the consumer. It's one thing to get the farming side right, but you've got to understand the production, processing. You've got to understand the wholesale retail, and you've got to understand at the end of the day what the consumer demand is in order to meet that demand.
Well, you already got a little into it, but what makes Norco different to other organisations who operate in your industry?
Yeah, probably the key thing, as previously mentioned, is that most of our competitors are multinationals and they have external shareholders, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but an external shareholder will obviously live by their return, their dividend, their profitability. In Norco's case, the co-op is owned 100% by farmers. So farmers tend to live and die by their farm gate milk price, and getting the best farm gate milk prices is our objective. In a normal circumstance where there's external shareholders, obviously the farm gate is seen as a cost of doing business, and the preference is to keep it down as much as possible. So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is that we're quite unique now. We're probably the last of our kind in the real sense that we're 100% owned by our farmers. So when we're marketing to the consumer, We're not the cheapest. We're competitive, but we have a really good quality and a really good heritage. But the consumer resonates with the fact that they know when they're buying Norco products that 100% of whatever return there is going back directly to the actual farmer.
So what is the long-term strategy for Norco and how do you plan to achieve it?
Well, I suppose our objective is to, obviously, we've been around 122 years, want to stay around for the same again, and it's really all about profitability. So it's about building our position profile that we have in the market and continuing to build our profitability and build our farm gate so that our farmer members can reinvest in their farms, and that creates sustainability as well as succession planning. Our business is quite diverse. We have a rural agri-business. We have about 30 rural stores. We have an ice cream business. We're the biggest contract packer in Australia. And we have our milk business, which is our core business. We are exporting as well. We export into China as well as America. So we're looking to A, grow the export business, B, looking at the major channel in Australia domestically through our supermarket relationships. C, we have a route business where we deliver to the back end and food services. And one of the areas there that we're looking at for a long-term strategy is the cafe coffee market, which is huge in Australia, and it's a milk coffee market. So basically, when a consumer orders a coffee, 25% of the cup is coffee, 75% is milk. The marketing is all about the coffee in terms of the heritage, the quality, credibility of the bean of the coffee. So what we're doing is working with the major coffee houses about working together on telling the actual milk story, using the Norco story in terms of Norco milk with their coffee brand. We're also looking at product development of coffee, milk coffees, and also coffee ice cream products for those different coffee houses. So one of our key objectives is that we would like to be the biggest player in the cafe coffee market in Australia within the next 3 to 4 years.
Oh, fantastic. My next question for you is, after almost a decade with the company, what are the milestones that you remember the most?
Yeah, probably there's a number of major ones. When I started at Norco, we were around about a $300 million business, so we've basically doubled in size. But probably the key things, our license rights for our brand and distribution had been sold prior to me starting for about $63 million. We made a decision that we wanted to control our destiny and we wanted to buy those license rights back. So we negotiated for about 3 years and we bought them back for $5 million, which was, great. That license right, what it consisted of was the route business and the ability to talk direct to the retailers instead of going through a third party. They were losing probably about $7.5 million under the previous ownership, so we were able to turn that around within about 18 months. I went and spoke with Coles to negotiate with them, and we struck a really good deal over a period of about 2 years for the Queensland contract, which has been one of the most profitable contracts, probably the most profitable contract for Norco ever, and that has grown from strength to strength. I think our marketing strategy is another key thing. We've basically used the fact that we are the farmer-owned cooperative and promoted that fact that when you're buying Norco products, you are really 100% supporting the sustainability of farmers. We broke into China. It took a couple of years to get fresh milk into China. We were the first ones to do that. And probably the brand profile lift from that in Australia and around the world has been just significant for Norco. And probably the other major thing is that when you look at the farm gate price across the country, when you blend it, so approximate an average, we're paying the highest farm gate. We have been for the last couple of years across the country. So when you look at our model financially in terms of our profit and our farm gate, we're probably the most successful in terms of financial outcomes processor in the country. So we're pretty proud of that.
Well, finally for you today is, with all your corporate experience, what are the lessons you've learned from doing business successfully?
I think the key rules are pretty much the same, but there's probably 4 general rules I've learned over many years that everything feeds back into. Number one is people. Business is about people. I think like-mindedness attracts like-mindedness. So winners attract winners, losers attract losers. So what that means is that you need to have the right people around you in the right roles. That's the most important thing, number one. Number 2 is cost. I think even when the business becomes quite successful, you've got to be consistently focusing on cost and overheads in terms of ongoing reducing or efficiencies to balance out the business. 3 is focus, and focus means I always look at the business, no matter how diversified, and I ask myself, first of all, is it viable? And if it's viable, that's great, because you don't want to be shifting deck chairs around on the Titanic. Number 2 is you ask yourself, who is the customer? Number 3, where do you fit in the marketplace? And then you focus purely on that position, so you don't get distracted. You focus on that consumer, that customer, and where you fit in on the marketplace. And the 4th one overall is strategy, which is, what is the strategy? When you're talking to a lot of businesses and you ask those 3 questions, what is, your point of difference? What is your competitive edge? Which leads into what your strategy is. They don't usually know. And I think your strategy's got to be based around a position in the marketplace that's not based purely on price. I mean, anybody can sell $2 coins for $1, but you go broke at the end of the day. So if you have a very clear strategy on where the business will go, not based on price, I think that's critical to the long-term success.
Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today.
You're welcome.
This has been a production of the Australian Business Executive, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with the Australian Business Executive and our magazines, videos and podcasts by visiting www.theabe.tv and clicking on subscribe.